All right, folks. The Master of Horror is flexing some new merch here. Stephen King, very proud of his "I'm Speaking" T-shirt. Look at him with the thumbs up. The "I'm Speaking" T-shirt. Now, is he aware that she said "I'm speaking" in response to ceasefire protesters? Maybe, maybe not. Wouldn't surprise me either way. Professor Zenkis reminds him she said that to silence anti genocide protesters who are trying to prevent more Palestinian children from being slaughtered. You are a cruel, broken man. What happened to you? Good question, Professor. Good question. I like this meme here from Carl Zah. I'm speaking over the Palestinians. Stop bombing us. James says the ability of liberals to completely shift their allegiance to another person is a little scary. It doesn't even matter if the candidate doesn't have a platform anymore. It's all blind allegiance to a party. That's the thing. Stephen King is so vacuous, it would not surprise me if he didn't know what that quote was in reference to. He probably just saw her say it and didn't look into it. Or maybe he did and doesn't care. That's totally possible as well. So we're already at the liberals mocking pro-genocide. I'm sorry, liberals rocking. Sorry, pro-genocide merch stage of the Kamala campaign. Yeah, it's just amazing. You know, when I first saw that, I thought it might be like one of these. You know how sometimes, the certain political movement will Photoshop, a message that they approve of onto a famous actor wearing an empty T-shirt. This is one of the more famous examples of, a Tom Hanks wearing a plain black tee, and they Photoshop this onto him. It looked like that. It looked like one of those jobs, but of course it's not because Stephen King tweeted this out himself. So he actually bought an "I'm Speaking" shirt and decided it'd be a great idea to thumbs up, mug for the camera. Wow.
Okay, but you know what? I've thought about this because I lost interest in them the way you do any writer. If you read enough of their work, it gets repetitive. There's only so much any person has in them. They follow certain patterns in their
Yeah, yeah.
books. I read every Stephen King book up through Pet Cemetery, and then I was done.
All right.
Um, he is the ultimate boomer. Like, if you look at his work, it is very much this vision of the boomer generation being the good guys, but in particular, the less radical ones. If you look at The Stand, the walking dude, who's supposed to be the devil, is basically a yippie in the 60s. He portrays him as having been at the edge of radical movements, and he's the one who stirs up the violence. He's the one who takes it away from peace and love. So he was always that way. If you remember, the way Firestarter resolves is she has to find a magazine. Spoiler alert, if anyone's planning on reading it. She has to find a magazine that's not corrupted by the government. And the final scene of the book is she walks into the offices of Rolling Stone. So it's not surprising that he turned out like this if you actually go back and look at his writing from his grand productive days. It was always this uber liberal boomer as opposed to left liberal boomer point of view. And he's just followed the path of that entire generation into Reagan light kind of politics. And I think with most of them, it's the frog in the pot of boiling water. Like I've said this when I talk to my father. My father is a Tom Waits song. He lives at the
Right.
track. He
Right.
lives at the track. He trains horses. This guy. He makes money training horses. He blows it at playing cards. I mean, he's a fucking Tom Waits song, and he's completely indoctrinated with this MSNBC shit. And I tell him, do you realize that these people? It's not like your day. It's not like Walter Cronkite, right?
Right.
It's not like these are not news people. Do you get that? They don't. They don't. It just happens so gradually. They think that these institutions that they grew up respecting and trusting are the same. It just happens so gradually, they don't even realize this is not grape juice, it's grape drink. They can't tell the difference
Right. Right.
anymore.
Right. Yeah, and he is definitely You're right. He is that personality type to a T. Remember when he got punked by the Russian trolls who called him and they tricked him into praising this, what was it, Stepan Bandera? It was a great man. And that's what makes me think like maybe he didn't even realize that she was, shouting down the ceasefire protesters, because he obviously had no idea who this Bandera guy was and just went along because he knew that was the right lib take, right? Anything Ukraine good. So he just goes along, right? Doesn't bother looking into it whatsoever.
Please clap.